Hi, I'm Mike with Baby Lock. With the introduction of the Radiance, one of the things that we're all excited about is Stitchsync. And Stitchsync is what we're actually calling our stitch regulation on the sewing side of the machine. Now with Stitchsync, you're gonna notice that we have a specialty foot, and I've already attached that foot to my machine. And you can see it's a very low profile foot, very small. The one thing that's very important to know about the foot is it does have to be plugged into the back of the machine, just like our digital dual feed foot does. If you do not plug that in, then your machine doesn't recognize that you're in Stitchsync or stitch regulation. Once the actual plug has been attached, you'll notice over on my screen, it automatically jumps into my stitch regulation screen. Now on my stitch regulation screen, you'll notice that I have 3 different modes. You can actually select one of the modes, and then right below it, it's gonna tell you what that mode is. So for the first one here, you can see this is my intermittent mode, which means that when I'm not moving the fabric, the needle is actually gonna stop moving as well. So this is gonna allow me to actually be very precise about where my stitch is, because as long as I'm moving the fabric, I get a stitch. When I'm not moving the fabric, I don't have a stitch. If I go to the second mode here, you'll see this is my continuous mode. And again, it's gonna give me all the information about what I need to know when I'm in that mode. This is going to allow that needle to keep moving very slowly whenever I have paused movement of my fabric. Notice that on my intermittent mode and my continuous mode that I have 2 different stitch type selections. I can do straight stitch or I can do a zigzag. Once I go to my third mode, you're gonna notice that I'm gonna get a warning. And the reason that I'm getting the warning here is because it's telling me that I can only use a closed toe foot whenever I'm using this mode. This is my basting mode. So when you actually open your Radiance, you're gonna see you have 3 different soles to go with your Stitchsync foot. You're gonna get the closed toe, which I have on the foot right now. You're going to get the Echo sole, and then you're gonna get the open sole. So you can interchange these very simply just by pushing the release latch here on the back of the foot, and then they slide forward and slide back in with the new foot. Very simple to do. I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge this because once you acknowledge it, it'll let you go into basting mode. And with basting mode, you'll notice that it only gives me that choice of a straight stitch. I don't have the option to do zigzag. I'm gonna go back to my mode 1 here, into my intermittent mode, and we're actually gonna stitch a little. So I'm gonna move this out of the way, and then I'm gonna reposition myself in front of the machine. And you'll notice that on the bed of the machine, I have a couple of things that are showing up in my projected area. So you'll see the projected area as a whole, but you'll notice that I have this line or this bar that's back here towards the center part of my actual foot. This is actually telling me where my fabric needs to reach before I can start stitching. So if I have my fabric all the way up here, it's actually not gonna let me stitch because I'm not past that indication line. So I'm gonna slide my fabric underneath my foot into an area where I'm ready to stitch. I'm gonna stitch here on this little green triangle. And then you'll notice also, if I pull back just a little bit, you can't really see it that well on the green fabric, but there's a little green dot here. That green dot tells me that I'm ready to stitch. If I raise my presser foot, you'll notice that that little dot turned red. That means that I'm not ready to go. So you'll actually see this happen as I'm stitching. This will go from red, meaning not ready to go, green, meaning that I'm ready to go, or flashing green, which means that I actually am stitching in stitch regulation. If I don't see this dot at all, then that means that I actually do not have stitch regulation engaged. So I'm gonna go ahead and lower my presser foot again, and I'm gonna come into my area. And then if you're someone who likes to stitch with stitch regulation or quilting, one of the things you may know is that a lot of times we actually pull our tail of our upper thread or hold it. I'm gonna raise my foot again so I can pull some out, lower it down, and then I can do needle down, needle up. And what that did is that just pulled my bobbin thread to the top. And normally I would have tweezers to help me grab that, but I was able to grab it pretty easily. And then this is actually gonna make sure that I don't have any extra thread down on the bottom of my fabric whenever I'm done. I'm gonna kind of hold that over to the side, and then I don't have my multifunction foot control on, so I'm just gonna do this with my stop start here. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on. Once I have it engaged, I can start moving my fabric, and as I move my fabric, you'll see that my stitch is actually going. Now, because I'm in intermittent mode, as soon as I stop moving my fabric, you'll notice that my needle stopped moving. This is gonna allow me a chance to pull these tails out of the way so that I don't stitch over them. and then I'm ready to go again. So I'm gonna hit start. And the reason I'm hitting start again was because when I moved my hand underneath that display, it lost contact with the projector. And so it took it that I was finished stitching, okay? And you can see as I stitch, it's just going to keep up with my stitching. Now I'm gonna tell you, I am not a free motion quilter, but you can see, even though I'm not a free motion quilter, this is not that hard to do, right? Maybe not the prettiest at this point, but still not hard to do. Once I get to where I'm ready to stop, all I have to do is hit my start stop, or if I have the multifunction foot control, I can take my foot off of that foot control and it will stop in place. So with our Stitchsync, you're gonna be able to create beautiful free motion quilted patterns with ease.